Hello there and welcome to the channel. My name is Annie and this is my creative detour. I hope you're all having a great week and having fun playing in your crafty space. Now today I'm jumping on to do a quick project and it was pretty fun actually. I've made a couple of samples to show you at the end, and I'm making a few little journaling cards to go into our junk journals, and you can see that I've got my pots out that I have on my desk. I decided that I wanted to try and use up a few things off my desk because my desk looks like a bomb has hit it and I've got stuff everywhere. So some of you will have seen that I picked up this little address book from the Royal Horticultural Society and I got it from the RSPCA. I showed you it in my thrift haul. Now it's got these lovely images in it and I picked it up probably for around 50 cents. I know that it's got $1 on it, but I put it in my bag that I get from there for fill a bag for $10. And I think I got about 18 or 20 books in it. So it was a bargain because it's got some lovely little photographs actually in it. And I think I mentioned in the thrift haul that I kind of knew what I wanted to do with it. So here we are today, and I have cut out one of the images and I've found some cardstock in my stash that coordinates nicely with it, and I'm going to back that and mount it onto a postcard size journaling card and use my pot here to create little scraps. And I'm calling these my picture palette cards because it's going to have a little swatch of samples on it. So let's get set up and I'll show you how I make them. Okay, so I have some base cards here that I've cut out of a 300 GSM white cardstock, and it's an A4 size here in Australia, so I have cut it into quarters. You can see that it's a quarter of a page to create the postcard, and it is an A6 size, so that is around about 10.5 centimeters by 14.85 centimeters. Now you can do it whatever size you want because it depends on the image that you find. Now I would potentially do some of these of anything in nature, so some nice scenery or photographs or illustrations. And I'm going to pop that on there, and then I'm going to rummage in my pot, my scrap pots, to pull out, I've got some yellow there, to pull out some little scraps to create swatches. Got a little bit of fabric there, so you can see on my desk I have a paper scraps pot, and it's got little bits and pieces in it from lots of projects that I've done, and I'll just pull out some bits and pieces that I think will work, and then I'll edit them. Now I got inspired to do this sometime last year, but haven't got around to it. It's been on my big long list to do, and I was looking at Sarah Renee Clark's colour cubes, and when you look at her colour cube, if you search colour cube on the net by Sarah Renee Clark, a box will come up and it has an image on it. It has all these little colour swatches down the bottom that coordinate with it, and they're designed for anybody who is creative to use them to inspire them to pull together a colour palette. And you can use it for art or design or scrapbooking or anything, card making or collaging. And we used to use something like that when I worked as a designer, except it was a digital form and it was for commercial use. We had a subscription, and it was a little bit different, but many years ago we used to use it. And when I used to teach, I used to access it, and we would use it as well. So it's a great resource to help you pick out colours. Now you can see that I'm just looking for some of the colours that are in the image. Now they don't have to be exact. They just need to be in the family of the colour palette, because the whole point is that I'm wanting to use scraps off my desk I don't want to have to go looking for other bits and pieces. I just want to try and use what is here. We might pull in that little bit of green as well. So I'm liking that actually. I'm liking that little bit of combination. We'll tear this up as well and just switch them out and see. I kind of feel that I've got enough here to go on. And I don't use that program anymore because you've got to be working in the industry to have access to it. But the Colour Cube by Sarah is a good alternative for the everyday user. Now I'm just going to tear these now because I don't want them all perfect. You can see that the image is all precise, cut nicely and accurately, but I don't want to do that with the swatches. I want them to look like there was this image on a card and then you've rummaged in your bits and pieces and you've found some swatches that coordinate with it and work. And so I purposely want the swatches to be a little bit more rustic and, you know, hand torn. And I'm just trying to get them a similar size. They don't have to be exact. I think I want to put a little bit of this on just to lighten it up. And I quite like this one. So let's just cut down those little fibery pieces of material. And they add a little bit of texture. And I'll try and rip this one if I can, just so I can get the frayed edge. There we go. That's looking good. Now, do I want this one on or this one? Let's try. Okay, so with a little bit of fiddle, I have got those ready. So I'll pick up my bits that I'm not using, put the bigger bits back in my boxes that I might use again. There you go, those tiny little scraps that you think, oh, am I ever going to use those? Here we go. We're using them. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of stamping and heat embossing to put my own kind of flavour onto it. And I'm going to stamp and heat emboss a few things on the image. And I have some number stamps here. And it's a foam stamp by Tim Holtz. It's block lower text. I got to be honest, I'm not a big fan of the foam stamps, but the size and the narrowness of this stamp is really great. And so I do like using it because of that. However, it's a bit of a faff to use. It doesn't always stamp nicely. And it's hard to get enough ink on the foam. But here we go. All right, now let's put some embossing powder on that quickly because I want it to grab. And we'll set that. And I have out of Crafty by Tony's stamp, the collector, and I'll put her info below. I just have a little figure 6 stamp, and I'm thinking that I want to put a number here as if it's, you know, like a serial number. And then we'll stamp a figure 6 down here, and I'll heat emboss that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my little doodles onto it. So if any of you have watched the video on how I made postcards, this has kind of got a little bit of that postcard flavor to it, where I do a little bit of doodling and almost like a contour drawing. I purposely don't do it perfectly, and I like to keep the movement going. So a contour drawing is when you just keep moving your pen, you don't take it off the page. All right, that will do. Now I'm actually going to, on that line work, I'm actually going to drop some embossing powder onto that as well, because I want to set that pen, but I also want it to have a little bit of texture. So when the heat embossing goes onto the pen work, leaves a little bit of texture on it. And it doesn't all grab, because some of the pen will have dried and some won't, but that's all right. It's nice for it to be fluid. And then the last little bit of stamping I want to do is I have a stamp. It says specimen order ready to dispose. And this is the collector. I'm going to stamp that on the bottom of the card as if the image has inspired the selections. And now it's been stamped saying, all right, you've picked all your samples. We now can move this card on and dispose of it because the job is done. So now all we have to do is put it all together. So I'm going to glue my image down, but the paper is quite thin. So I will use glue stick on the image because I don't want the art glitter glue to leave markings on it. So let's glue that onto our mount first. Yes, I hope you're all having fun in your craft room this week. I'm having a great week. We've had some fun with the children. I did work yesterday, and I came home yesterday and thought, now, what will I do for my video for today? I thought, oh, that little address book that I found, I think I'll do those little swatch cards. So I came home and had a bit of a play in the studio and have thoroughly enjoyed making them. Alright, so that looks good. Now I'm going to glue that onto my card. Now, some of you will notice that I've got a little bell on my art glitter glue pin. I kept losing my pin, and I just thought, oh, I don't want to make a dangle. I'm not a big dangly beads, tassels kind of person. You may have noticed that. So I don't really have the resources to make a dangle for my pin. And I thought, what can I do? And I keep the little bells and ribbons off of the lint bunnies at Easter. And I spotted that in my embellishment drawer. Thought that will do. So we're now going to have a little bell every time I pick up my pin. All right, that's looking good, isn't it? Now, I'm just going to put this label on, but I think I want to cut the edge off of it and cut it straight. And I just stamped that out of some of Tony's stamps again. We'll run that to the end so that it misses the flowers. And then I'm just going to put a small dot of glue on the back of each of these little swatches, and I'm going to start at one end, and I'm not going to glue the whole thing. I'm just putting the dot of glue in the middle, and then I'll do the other end, and it's really just to hold it there. So you can see that they come together pretty quickly, really. Then I'm going to do the middle one. I've got a little bit of fabric. That's just helping me get my spacing right. We're off to buy some tiles this afternoon. We need to retile our shower. We had a leak, a slow leak in one of our showers. And my husband is very handy. So he ripped out all of the shower and he waterproofed it all and resealed it and pulled the gyprock off the wall and relined it with waterproof sheeting. So now we're at the stage that it's all ready for the tiles, except the designer in the house needs to pick the tiles. So we're off to find some tiles to retile the shower, but they've got to coordinate with the tiles that are still on the main part of the floor of the bathroom and around the walls. So that's going to be tricky, but we'll manage. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm going to just whiz to my sewing machine and run a stitch on this and put a little bit of sewing on it. And then I'll be back. I'll show you my other 3 samples that I've got as well. Okay, I'm so thrilled that my sewing machine is working again. It makes life so much easier when you're creating, having the option to be able to just jump to the end of the desk and put a few stitches on here and there. Okay, so there we go. Let's have a little look. So there's our finished journaling card. You can see you can journal on the back, or you could stick this into a page and it be a feature, or you could have it as a pocket or a tuck spot, something like that. So let's get the other ones out and we'll see what they look like. We'll find one to go into our nature journal. So you can see that the embossing on that is just looks lovely. It's raised, and it was just because before the pen had dried, I dropped on some of that clear embossing powder, and it just has added a little bit of texture onto the flower. And I've stamped it and done a few stitches, and then our swatches are only glued down in the middle, which I like. I like them being loose and being able to curl up and have a little bit of texture to them and dimension. So there we go. That's what that one looks like. And it's number 6. And it actually looks lovely in there, doesn't it? I'll pin it in there for the moment. I potentially would put that in there. I'm not sure whether I possibly would leave it as a pocket. I probably might mount it down lower and leave it as a pocket, but I won't glue it in at the moment because I've got to take photos of them for my thumbnails. What else have we got? All right, this was the first one I made, so my tester, and I was happy with it, but I changed up a few things as I progressed, and you can see same formula, a big number, a number here, and a figure, and then I've got, once again, just 5 little swatches pulling out some of the colors that are in the image, and they don't have to be all exact, but I was looking for texture and variation in shape that was printed on it. So you can see this one's quite organic, this one's structured, this one's a little bit more structured, but the color palette is the thing that ties them all together. Then this was my second one, and I quite like this one. However, it's a little bit dark, like the image is quite dark. I tried to lighten it up a bit and pull in the lightest pink that's on the tips of the flower. And so we've got variations of red, and then we've got some greens. And I purposely picked images out of my pot that had green in it, but it actually had leaves and things in the background of it. This one I didn't have a figure 2, so I stamped it with form CB1 and just put on, once again, some stitches. And the last one was a blue one, and you can see here I used a paint swatch and I left the name on it. It's called Celestial Blue, and I wanted to keep that name on there. You can see that I've got a little bit of the green that was from the image, and then just some other swatches. Once again, I didn't glue the edges down, I've just glued, the center, and ran a stitch on it and did the embossing again. So there we go. There's our quick project for today, and they're my picture palette cards, perfect for a journaling card or for some happy mail, and they use up your scraps and some nice little images that we all have in our stash as junk journalers, and they've got lots of texture and they're bright and happy. I hope you really enjoyed those today. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. That would be wonderful, and tell me in the comments below what you like about this project and what images you might pull out of your stash to use, because I'd be interested to know. I might do some landscape sort of scenery ones as well at some point. I hope you have a great week making something fun and new and exciting, and I will see you on Saturday with another project. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. I really appreciate it. And I will see you soon. Bye for now.